There's lots of moments of joy and inspiration in this film. There's a lot of joy in this film. Let's bring out the star of the film, Dan Cohen, and the director of the film, Michael Rossato-Bennett, to talk about it. Dan and Michael, come out. Welcome, guys. Michael, you made this film. What started you on this journey?
What started me on this journey was the beautiful reaction of one 94-year-old man to music. And
You're talking about Henry?
Henry. Yeah, Henry. This was just a little job that I was doing to help Dan out for a foundation that wanted to, push his message out there. And but when I felt Henry, I mean, how many people here have seen the clip of Henry online? 1, 2, okay, 3, 4, 5. See, way back there, people have seen it. Henry was a 6-minute clip of video of an old man in a nursing home with dementia, and it went viral worldwide on the internet. 6 minutes long, which is probably the longest clip to ever go viral on the internet. And, but what happened to me was when I sat in front of this man who had been literally kind of like this for like years, sitting in his wheelchair on the side of the hall, and when we gave him his music, the music from his youth when he was a young man, Cab Calloway, which is really amazing music actually. It just woke his soul up, literally. He came. It was like you shocked somebody or something. Something happened to him, and I felt it, like all those people who saw Henry online felt it, and it was that feeling, that feeling of sensing another human come alive that was so profound that I just knew, literally in that moment, that I would do whatever it took to make a large film about this moment, the moment of, a human being who was gone, who had been discarded and forgotten, and yet, if you could touch his deepest parts, that there was life in there, and that there was more life than anyone had ever anticipated. Certainly, I mean, he's a poet, he's a singer, and I thought, and everybody else thought, he was gone. So,
should we show him the clip of
sure,
Henry?
Yeah.
Let's show him, Pedro. The film is filled with moments like that. Dan, what happened to Henry there?
Well, when you have advanced dementia, as Henry does, you no longer can recognize your family, as Henry couldn't recognize his daughter. Remember how many children he had. You lack the ability to communicate, but when you hear music that is from your youth, that's familiar, that has meaning, somehow your short-term memory is stopped or greatly degraded, but your long-term memory is still very much intact, and your emotional system is intact, and so it's a back door to your emotional system. So when you play this music, it's just plugging right in as if everything was fine. And Henry, in many ways looked fine because he was reacting the way we all react to music. So when all of us are older, and should we have this disease at some point, we're going to react very much the way we do now, even though we won't be able to recognize or remember from a few minutes ago.
Why is it that musical memories are so strong and endurable?
Well, with our other senses like sight and smell, these senses are located in one small part of the brain. But music really lights up the brain when you see scanned images of the brain. And so it's deeply embedded. Music is deeply embedded in our neural networks, our remembrances from when we were young and growing up and coming of age. Sort of the songs get tied with our experiences. So when we hear a song from back then, it's in the brain, they're co-located with these autobiographical memories. So for someone with dementia, if they have 5 songs that they recognize from the youth, that'll kick off 5 memories. And if you have 100 songs that are familiar from the youth, it'll kick off 100 memories. And what will that mean in terms of plasticity of the brain and really kicking somebody into gear and feeling alive and feeling good about themselves, as opposed to no stimulation. And people aren't, you could say to someone with dementia, hey, I'm here, I'm your daughter. That's not going to do it. You've lost that ability to connect that way. But with music, you can facilitate and bring that back.
Oh, Michael, it was
not all the time.
not all the time,
yeah,
but a lot of the time. Michael, it was both inspiring to see these transformations, but it was also very sad the way that we're going into these nursing homes, and you talk about there's this industry created, and we just have this general sense that we are at our best in adulthood, and then when we get to elderhood, we are just lesser versions of ourselves, and sort of warehousing them, the elders among us, in this sort of industry in these homes. It's just very sad.
I mean, I was thinking about that's really kind of reminds me of what I wanted to say when I thought if I were going to talk to the Apple audience, what would I say, And when I went into these nursing homes for the first time, it was a terrible experience for me. I don't know how many of you have gone into nursing homes. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 5, great. Well, I think people will agree. You almost have to steel yourself because there are sights and sounds and there's human suffering that is really, it's really like a lot of times. It's like walking into One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Today I just walked into a nursing home, and it was literally like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It was just all of these people like lost their minds and their bodies, and it's so far from the lives that they lived when they were who they feel inside that they were or they are, and I just wanted to talk about, we made a clip, okay? And that clip went online and it went viral worldwide. And what that did was literally change almost overnight, like the lives of thousands and thousands of elders, because just seeing that clip, I don't know how many nursing homes contacted Dan, but it's a lot. And it totally transformed. It woke people up, and I made this film, using the technology that these companies have made possible, and it was not that expensive, and like Dan and I and this film, and we are literally changing the world for. Our dream is to change the world for a couple million people. We've already probably changed, 100,000, or is that do you have any number? We have no idea how many, but a lot of people, more than we started. And if I could inspire, I was expecting to see like some filmmakers in the audience. Is there anybody with an ambition of filmmaking in the audience? No? One, good, 2, great. 3, 4. I just wanted to say, I wanted to inspire people and say that, the model of I'm going to make a film and be Steven Spielberg and become world famous, I tried that and I actually failed miserably at that, But when I said, okay, forget it, I don't care, I'm never going to, be a famous filmmaker, I'm just going to try and do the most good that I could do for other human beings, I think that's the new model for filmmaking in this world, because if you can serve lots and lots of people, filmmakers used to serve people by giving dreams to a lot of people who had no dreams, But now I think the function of the filmmaker has shifted slightly, and I just wanted to encourage anyone out there with an insight or a feeling, moved by a feeling, to trust those feelings and try and serve the world with your craft, if that craft is filmmaking or music or whatever. I just wanted to give a plug for that way of approaching creative acts. I hope I didn't go off of the subject.
No, absolutely. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Before you guys started actually changing the world, Michael was filming you going around and having little to no success getting people to understand the value of this therapy. And one of the amazing moments in the film, you talk about that it's very easy to get people to write $1,000 prescription for drugs, but getting people to invest in an iPod for a patient is very, very difficult because that goes completely outside of the whole system, and then of course that doesn't interact with the industry, the drug industry, which is tied in with the the late in life care industry. Why is it so hard to get people to give music to people?
Well, I think we've just become a very medicalized society. So everything has, the solution is in the pill. And we're just used to that. So it's not just Big Pharma. Nobody's stopping us from doing this. If all the families said we wanted to stop using these antipsychotic drugs, which are very harmful for people with Alzheimer's disease, then they would. So families just need to speak up. There are many, there's a movement in the nursing home industry and elsewhere to reduce the use of these drugs, but they are overused. But doctors feel they don't want to pull people off of these drugs because if they pull them off of these drugs, their behaviors, which is the reason they wanted to calm them down, they got too agitated, the behaviors will come back, they'll hurt themselves or hurt someone else. But we're very successful in substituting the music for the drug. Okay, so that's the power of this. You know, you want to give them the drug, which is $400 a month for the rest of their life, or you want to, which is just dulls them and takes away whatever character and personhood they have, or do you want to give them music so that it just rocks their world with their favorite music, and they don't need the drugs anymore because they're calm, they're happier, they're in touch with themselves, they're more social. You know, you tend to reminisce. You're re-energized as opposed to like this. When you're in a nursing home, half the people in nursing homes never ever get a visitor. And time and motion studies in New York City nursing homes show that 90% on average of a resident's time is spent, or 90% of the residents spend their time idle. And so that's a bad combination. You know, if you're in a nursing home, nobody's visiting you and you're doing nothing, right? So even if your physical status is stable, you're you know, kind of why go on kind of thing. So we're trying to change that. And there are many people in nursing homes. Nursing homes have a lot of good people, but we don't fund music. We don't fund iPods. If it's an expensive drug, there's no limit to what is available. So we have to change our rules a little bit and just tweak it just a little bit. Say, hey, if this is better than the drugs, and in fact, the guy who invented one of the main drugs for Alzheimer's said, gee, if I invented a pill that got the reaction that you're getting with the music, it would quickly be a multi-billion-dollar blockbuster, and every doctor would be prescribing it, and every family would want it. But because it doesn't fit that mold, it's not happening. So it's become a word of mouth. So now we have 640 nursing homes and assisted living facilities and hospices and hospitals in 45 states and 8 countries using this approach very successfully.
And it's about, we were talking about this before, it's about music plus memory. So if we play for these folks some great, energizing music that they never heard before, that will not have the impact as the music that gets at the memory.
Well, if I played new music, it's like going to a concert for people that have been around a long time and they see their old favorite group. Do they want to see new music? They want to hear the old stuff, and that's why all these bands that are older like me, they're playing their old stuff because that's what the fans want. So we want to give people what they want, really.
Michael, did you find that certain types of music tend to work better? Is the Beatles working better than hip hop or gospel or what have you, or classical, or there's certain sort of music that embeds to the memory a little bit stronger?
The interesting thing is the way music goes into our brains in the first place. It goes into our there is no music place in the brain. I think Dan already said that, right? There's your eyes have a place in the brain, your ears have a place in the brain, but there is no music part of the brain. We've basically cobbled out of all of the parts of the brain our ability to hear music, okay? And that's why music lights up the brain more than any other human stimulus. This is a really profound concept. And when you're young and your brain is going through such incredible transformations, like in teenager years and late teenager years, the brain is actually making as many connections as during infancy. Like, that's kind of counterintuitive, but it's absolutely true. And and the music that comes into you in that time. You're defining who you are and what you are, and you're going through a tumultuous experience of changing from being a child to being some sort of an individual. And the music, I mean, I'm sure, like if I ask any of you guys, like close your eyes, okay? Close your eyes, go back to being 15 years old, and imagine yourself listening to a piece of music that meant a lot to you. Okay, just try it for a second. And imagine yourself doing that. And you can probably hear that song. And you can probably see where you were. And you can probably, basically, did everybody experience that? It shifts you into a different part of your being. Not the cognitive side of your head, not the logic side of your head, but it's actually the part of your being that it's the same part of your being that remains when you lose all of your memory from dementia. It's your non-cognitive, it's your motion system, it's your emotional system. And this old music lives deep in that system. And that's why when you hear a song, or just like right now, like you guys you went back into your memories and you didn't just hear a song. I guarantee for each and every one of you that did this, you didn't just hear a song. The whole thing came back to you, right? You saw where you were. When I listen to Bach's Toccata and Fugue in G, I'm back in my living room, I'm 15 years old, my girlfriend is there, and I kiss her for the first time. And I can tell you what color the rug is. I can tell you, the bricks on the wall that my dad decided were cool if he painted one orange, one white, one orange, one white. It looked terrible. But anyway, that's how profound this deep music is, and why it's so powerful with these people with dementia, that they have the same capacity. And it took me a year of filming before I understood what Dan, I guess, understood when we were starting, but just how much remains and what remains in these people. And I just want to say one last thing, like just as there's more in them than we think, there's more in us than we think. And I learned from these people with dementia how to listen to music. Like if you see this film, you'll go home and you'll be like, whoa, I have never listened to music really. And you'll try and listen to music like these people did with your whole heart, with your whole memory, with every part of your being. And I learned something from people who I thought had nothing to teach me, and so it was a valuable experience.
That's an amazing journey as a filmmaker to learn like that as you're doing the piece.
Yeah, it was. It is.
Dan, this journey that Michael's talking about begins before birth, right? And the film talks about when you're about 6 months old. I know I have two kids. I know you can hear before you're 6 months pregnant, but that you really are hearing the mother and trying to almost sing along with her. Is that how it begins?
Well, this is the part of the movie that Michael sort of crafted, so I'll let Michael answer that.
I mean, it's kind of one of my deep theses, that it's really phenomenal. I mean, the human brain at around 6 months is capable of thought. Okay, and what is it doing? It's got its head against its mother's heart. It's like listening to a drum. Boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, and it's hearing her voice. Coming in through the amniotic sac, through the fluid, right? So check this out. When babies are born, they cry, right? Everybody knows that, right? Babies cry. Well, those tears are those cries are in the exact same cadence and basically melodic structure as the mother's voice. Okay, so what this means is that inside the womb, when we're fetuses, we're actually learning how to basically sing. We're learning rhythm, we're learning melody, we're learning structure, and it's our first learning. And that is, so music is our first education. And it's the one that keeps us going throughout our entire life. Like the heartbeat, is music. Like, that's what I figured out from making this film. The heartbeat is music. That's all music is. It's faith. It's boom, boom, boom. You know, there's always going to be another beat. And so for me, music is the proto-religion. It is all religion. It's faith. It's your connection to the infinite, to before you were even born, before you came out, you were listening to a drum. You were laying on a drum, you know? And so it should be no surprise how powerful music is, you know, to us. And I'm sorry, I'm ranting.
No, not at all. You remind me. I saw the James Brown movie Get On Up last night, right before I saw your movie. And there's this one moment where they're having this rehearsal, and the guys in the band are not quite getting what James is trying to get him to. But they've heard this before, so he points to the drum and he says, "What's that?" And they're like, "That's a drum." And he points to the horns, and "What's that?" "That's a drum." And he points to the the guitar. "What's that?" "That's a drum." And like everything to James was a drum, which is why it had that rhythmic impact, and why he's able to impact us, because he understands everything's a drum and the polyrhythms is everything.
And why you can't escape that dude. When he comes and he gets on stage and he's alive and he makes that music, you can't escape him. And that's what we found in this film. Like when these elders, they don't have like the ability to lie. They have no guile left. And when they experience music, it is so pure that you cannot, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, even after years of working on this film, when I see these people and their reaction to music, it hits me in a way that is pre-verbal. It's in a different part of my being, and I don't know if you can say that, right? When you see some of those people and their reactions, you can't defend against it. It just comes into you, like James Brown.
Yeah.
Because James Brown is a master of the heartbeat of life. Anyway, so are some of these people.
No, absolutely, Dan. Part of what he's talking about is something they say in the film. Music is as quintessentially human as language, right? And that distinguishes us on the globe.
Yes. Is there a question?
No, there's no question. I think we have known that. We hear birds sing to each other, but nobody else really makes music, right? Is there any other species that makes music in the way that we make music?
I don't know about in the way, but there's just so much, there's so many species out there, and we're learning stuff all the time. So I wouldn't really, throw a blanket. Nobody does.
But we create songs, and here's a 3-minute song, and I could start singing Happy Birthday or Love Me Do, and everybody would know that, and you could go on any continent and transport that just the same way we could transport the story of David and Goliath or what have you. And that's part of what makes us, right, along with the ability to communicate through language.
So what I'm trying to do, is to take that spark in people that with new music, new song is global, Spanish song, let's say, it goes globally. And I'm sort of going to divert for everybody for a minute. But right now you have, for instance, 21 countries where Spanish is a native language. So even though music is common through all, I'm sort of taking it down to sort of the actual usage, sort of translational intervention. And we need to find not the music that's just popular sort of today because of communication. This never happened before, even though it's sort of built in our DNA as well. But if somebody's 80-year-old came to the United States 80 years ago, and they are of Spanish origin, or they speak Spanish, but their Spanish might have been from Spain or Puerto Rico or Ecuador, or anyone. It's the music from their time that's going to be personally familiar to them is going to be different. And so our challenge, music and memory as my goal, and sort of making this happen for all these people who are sitting now in nursing homes and assisted living facilities and hospitals and such, is to not go for sort of that. Yes, it's general, but we have to really break it down to the specific for them, and that's the challenge.
What's your goal?
My goal is a standard of care My goal is that everybody here sets up a playlist for everybody in their families who is moving on in years. So as soon as something starts to happen, look, it could be a heart attack. My father-in-law had a heart attack. He was fine. He was living at home. I already had him set up with his iPod and headphones and a speaker. But then he went to assisted living and nursing home and hospital. He bounced 9 different places across, a certain few years. But he always had his music, and that transformed the feeling in the room. The nurses loved coming in. He loved Motown, so they were always like happy to come in. They were dancing in and out of there, and it transformed the visit. So the visit was no longer, even when he was dying in hospice, it was no longer sitting around. Oh, it's nothing we could do. He's dying. We turned on the music and we listened to his music, and we the family sitting around the bed tried to guess the names of the songs. So he really sort of that helped him, and it helped us. So it's very therapeutic for the family. And so that iPod then becomes prized even when a loved one passes away, because it has their music, and you can sort of remember them when they do pass that way.
I fear for what will happen to people who are young now when they become elders and they have to listen to Britney Spears when they are older to have those memories sparked, but let's get you guys involved in the conversation. Questions from you guys. Sir, here comes the mic.
Okay. Will it be a difference, you mentioned the interactions, like if they're wearing headphones to, let's say, like a speaker and open, like how's the interaction then? Like, it's because it's not so personal, like when you're hearing with your headphones, like when you're sharing with other people, is there a difference?
So another characteristic of Alzheimer's disease is that these folks have a compromised ability to filter out various audio streams. So if they're in a nursing home, there's TV going, noise in the hall, whatever, and there's music playing on a speaker, they're not going to be able to just listen to that music. So the Alzheimer's Association folks loves us to put the headphones on, so it's direct input right into the emotional system. And it may be the first clarity of sound someone's hearing in many months.
This here is like literally watching my family and my life. I lost my grandfather to dementia at 94. And, he came down with it around like the ending of like 89, 90. And when we used to visit him in the nursing home, my grandfather he's from Alabama, so he loved gospel. Playing those songs, he would hum along, and he would sing, and it took him back to a little boy. He literally began asking for his mom and asking for his brothers. But without it, he was literally like just there. And it's an amazing sight when it's 101. And to see this here, keep the movement going, guys. What you're doing, you're literally on the right path. It literally wakes them up, or it puts them in a happy place. Whatever suffering they're going through, you don't know, because they just seem so, it wakes up the happy part with them.
Michael, it's amazing that certain people are having this experience on their own, apart from, interacting with Dan. And how many older folks did you film having this sort of energizing experience with Dan's music?
I don't know. I guess we like hundreds even. Today, I was in a nursing home, and we just sort of randomly, we randomly gave music to. We're filming a woman who was with her music, and just sort of randomly, like we didn't know if this woman, how the reaction was, and like the room. We were in this room. And if you've ever been, it's like a prison. It's like it's kind of like a public school. The walls are all like tiled, and it's very echoey and kind of cold in a way. And everyone's in these like beds. We were at HHC, which takes the patients that no one else will take care of. It's an amazing place in New York City. You can be so proud of your city that this place exists. Like, they take care of the people that no one else will take care of. And so here was this woman and no one knows who she is. She has no family, nothing at all. And through trial and error, they found her music and they put it on her. And she was in the other room, and we were in this room, and it was very quiet and kind of cold, and it just didn't feel good, right? And then this old woman listening to her music comes walking in the room. We can't hear what she's hearing, right? But she's just like, and all of a sudden, swear to God, like I don't know, maybe if I do that, you could feel it, like literally the room changed. because this woman walked into it grooving to her, whoever the heck she is, you know, she was in it. And it literally changed the quality of the entire experience of being in that room. And that's what you're talking about, like your dad. And I just want to say something that I kind of experienced in the filming, and I know Dan has experienced this many times. Like maybe your father, first of all, it's a tremendous, what? Your grandfather. It's a tremendous pain when somebody you love does not know who you are. It's it messes with your mind because, you know, our whole lives, these people know who we are, and then all of a sudden they don't, and it's like literally the world starts spinning for you. I don't know if that happened for you, but it happened for me. Anyway, but like when people are in that state, even if your grandfather didn't recognize you specifically, he was in that place where he was inside of himself, and then when you come next to him, you start grooving with him, and you're together, right? It's like you may not have a conversation, but on a different human level, you are connected. And the pain in these places is a massive disconnection. You know, the cold hallways are hallways of disconnection, but you bring life back in with music, and it literally changes the entire place. So, you know, it's like we're changing the mind of the institution in a very subtle way, but it's also very deep. And, you know, our film is a documentary. People don't come out to see documentaries very much. You know, we're opening very soon. You will have an experience. You will be moved, just like I've described what's happened when we give music to these people. It's an inescapable experience. This sort of going from close. I kind of feel guilty, like I plugged something right there, you know. But
it's an amazing experience seeing the film. It's more than just a normal movie. So,
thank you.
Who else wants to get involved in the conversation? Raise your hand.
Hi, I want to thank you all for this presentation today. I happened upon it, and so I don't know if we have time, but because I didn't get to research in advance, and I wanted to know more of the story, and so so I'll ask a few questions, and if we have time to answer them, hopefully we will. Dan, so beforehand, are you a scientist, and were you researching this years in advance, and then was this already a program that was happening, and then did you get together with Michael to film, or were you already a filmmaker? And then is there a foundation? Can all of us contribute after? So on and so on. Thanks.
I'll start with the last part first. So Music in Memory is a nonprofit organization, musicinmemory.org. So people can donate iPods, they can donate money, used iPods, cash so we can buy more iPods. They can volunteer to help. They can help set up playlists for people. They can help investigate to discover what somebody's playlist is. And they can spend time with people in a nursing home. And we have many people across the country doing that. So no, I'm not a researcher. I'm a social worker by training. I spent most of my life actually in technology companies. And in 2006, I just heard on the radio, the journalist talking about how iPods were ubiquitous. They're everywhere. And I thought, well, the kids have them, a lot of adults, but in a nursing home. And if I'm ever in a nursing home, would I have access to my favorite 60s music? And so I Googled iPods and nursing homes. And even though there are 16,000 nursing homes in the United States, I couldn't find one that was using iPods. So I went to a local facility on Long Island where I live, and I said, I know music's already a number one activity. You already have live music. You have people going around singing. But can we see if there's any added value if we were to totally personalize the music? So I came in, and they said yes. I came in with my laptop and some iPods, and it was just really an instant hit. But when I tell people, my friends and such, about, this is amazing, you should see what's happening in the nursing home. People who have been sort of separated from their music for years, sometimes many years, and the response to the music when they get reconnected with it, they'd say, oh, how nice, Dan, you're bringing the old people music. I go, no, you don't get it. What I'm seeing is really significant. And I said, I have to really get this captured on film, at least a couple of minutes, so people can see it. Because everybody's we're all our own experts on music, right, our whole lives. So to have a different perception of music is kind of hard to make happen. So the foundation that supported me after a while allowed me to roll out the iPods to more folks. I said, gee, do you know somebody who's a filmmaker? And they said, yes, we have a filmmaker we've used, and that was Michael. And that's how we met.
How has filming this or working on this experience changed how you go about life, whether that be with music or filmmaking or interacting with others?
I mean, it changed my life. It did change my life because, they say storytellers only tell one story. They tell it over and over again. They make 100 films, but every film is basically the same film, or every novel is really the same novel. People seem to have a story. And the story of my life is the story of a person who was kind of had a little traumatic time when he was very young, and he closed down completely. And then he spent years trying to awaken the life inside of him, And so then when I saw a human being who was closed down in a moment waking up, and I said, wow, if we do this, we could wake a lot of people. To me, that tied into the story that that is my life. And so to have the opportunity to actually do something, to tell there's so many problems facing the world, right? Like global warming, what can we really do? You see the inconvenient truth, and we're like, okay, we'll change a light bulb or recycle something. Is that really going to do something? No. But this is an enormous problem, and one that's about to double in the next 10, 15 years in this country alone. And there is something we can do. This is the only, I think, the only good news about Alzheimer's that's been done in a while. And so I think that's just the chance to serve other people in an actual way has changed my life.
Yeah, there's this amazing moment in the film, intellectually and visually, when you talk about the shape of the demographics, the age demographics of America. And it used to be a pyramid with the largest number of folks being younger and the smallest number of folks being older. And then it becomes more of a square. And over time, as the boomers get older, it will become an inverted period.
Well, that inversion won't happen until 2050.
Right.
Right. The boomers are the column where there's sort of a one-to-one relationship between young and old. Or is that right? Or does the boomers?
Oh, there's more boomers than Xers. So it's. I mean, if the boomers are the top, it's got to be.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I have to research.
But you get kids stacking up like Jenga. To show you, the distribution of the age demographics. So it's really interesting when they try to do the boomers at the top, then it falls, of course. Have you written down the songs that you want to be on your iPod one day?
I haven't written them down. I have them, so I just take my iPod and send it with me. Well, it's no joke. We should all have it, and they should just follow us. I mean, that's, you don't, there are many people in nursing homes that don't have Alzheimer's. You have an accident, you have a stroke, boom, you're there. And so, you want to have the stuff kind of ready to go.
Dan, it is noble and valuable and important and life-changing work. Thank you for your work, Michael. It is an extraordinary, inspiring, joyful film. Thank you for your film. And thank you guys for spending some of your early evening with us.
Thank you.
Great. I'll be around if anybody has any questions.